Mitsuye Endo was living a normal life as a clerical worker at the DMV in Sacramento when the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor created a panic over what many presumed to be the mixed loyalty of Japanese Americans. In 1942, she and hundreds of other state workers were fired, solely because of their Japanese heritage. Mitsuye joined 62 others in the Japanese American Citizens League in challenging the firings. As the war with Japan escalated, anti-Japanese paranoia intensified, and in accordance with Executive Order 9066, the government began rounding up Japanese Americans on the West Coast and isolating them in detention centers. Mitsuye and her family were first brought to an assembly center near Sacramento before being moved to a camp in Tule Lake, California, and eventually to the Topaz camp in central Utah, where she would remain until the war was nearly over. With Mitsuye and all other Japanese Americans on the West Coast imprisoned, the focus was no longer on the state's dismissal of workers from their jobs. So attorney James Purcell shifted to challenging the incarceration of loyal Japanese Americans as unconstitutional. He needed an ideal plaintiff for the case, and he found one in Mitsuye, who had never even been to Japan. When Purcell asked her if he could file a petition on her behalf, challenging the government's detention of Japanese American citizens, Mitsuye hesitated. She was an intensely private person who had never sought attention. But as she later said in the oral history she provided for posterity, when she understood that her decision would affect the lives of thousands of others, she knew she had no choice. Purcell filed the petition on July 12, 1942. While the case proceeded through the legal system, the government offered to free Mitsuye, hoping to weaken her case, but she refused to leave Topaz until the Supreme Court ruled on her petition, which it did in her favor in December 1944. Mitsuye's was the only successful challenge to the incarceration. One day before the court's decision, the government proclaimed that loyal Japanese Americans could return to the West Coast. Mitsuye's sacrifice returned a measure of justice to 120,000 Americans whose freedom had been taken from them. Mitsuye was only 22 years old when she took up the cause of justice. She is now remembered for her role in ending the unconstitutional imprisonment of American citizens of Japanese descent.